right, welcome to Two Geeks and a Load Balancer. I'm Nathan, talking here with Chris about Kubernetes.
Hello.
There you go. I managed words. So the question is, next question is, what's the difference between Ingress versus Gateway API?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So Gateway API is something that's quite close to my heart. I've been spending a lot of time with it recently. But fundamentally, so Ingress, if you remember, is exposing applications with Kubernetes at layer 7, right? But if you have listened to our other very fantastic talks and we've discussed these things, you'll be a very learned gentleman at this point. But if you have, you'll notice that we talked about sort of CRDs and extending Ingress because it's kind of a limited API spec. There's also a couple of other limitations with it as well. But fundamentally, what's happened is the Kubernetes community as a whole, they came together and they said, hey, the Ingress API, although it is fantastic,
It could be fantastic.
it could be better. And if you look at sort of my water cooler versus Nathan's water cooler, you can kind of see
Yeah,
what we're saying here. Basic, fantastic. But, that's fundamentally what's happened. So they've come together, they said, we can do better here. And so what they've done is they've come up with Gateway API. Gateway API has a number of, what it basically does is it instantiates a gateway, and the gateway itself is a listener. And so you can have a gateway listening on 40, 40, you won't want to listen on 40, 80 and 443, for example. And you can attach a certificate to it. And then basically what you do then is you can either have it listening on a subdomain, you can have it as a wildcard, and then you're going to attach routes to that gateway. And where I've been spending a lot of time is with the HTTP route, which is really sort of the new Ingress, right? It's layer 7 routing for HTTP traffic, hence the name. And what it does is, if you think about to all of the CRDs we talked about, all of the annotations that you might need to do the advanced traffic routing, HTTP route basically gives you all of that in one single API, right? So if I want to do canary routing, I can do it within a filter within the API. If I want to do traffic weighting, I can do that. If I want to do header modifications, I can do all of that within a common URI, a common API. And so now I don't need to extend it with CRDs. I don't need to use annotations. I don't need to use any of those things. And so for me, one of the key tenements of Kubernetes is portability, right? I want to be able to move a container or an application to any cluster anywhere. So why should Ingress be any different? Why should the way I load balance things at layer 7 be any different? And one of the things we saw a lot of was that each vendor would have its own specific way of implementing advanced traffic routing features. Gateway API sort of says no to all of that and says everybody do it the same way. And now we've got portability. So I think it's something I'm a little bit passionate about, and I think it's a great thing. And I think, as I said before, Ingress isn't going to go away tomorrow. I'm sure it will stay around for quite some time, but certainly, I think most people are starting to look at Gateway API, HTTP route, and they're moving that way because in my opinion, it's frankly a much better solution.
Okay, makes sense. So Ingress is still here and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not as portable, it's not as consistent in what it can do, and it's not as extensible. If it is extended, it's going to be extended through a little more customization of CRDs or annotations.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, it can be extended, but it's a more arduous process versus the Gateway API, which has a lot of this built in and it has a better consistency already.
Yeah, and like a good example is, say I want to, I've been running my Kubernetes workloads in K8s, and now I want to use vanilla Kubernetes on premise, right? Previously, I would have to, if I was using sort of maybe I want to use different Ingress controllers, right? And I would have to rewrite my Ingress definitions to match the new Ingress controller, because perhaps I need to use AWS's, Ingress controller. I forget what its name now. I'll get it. It'll come to me after the call, but but then you want to go on-prem and you want to use Abby, right? So you've got to rewrite those rules. With Gateway API, you don't have to do that. It's just straight slap it in there and you're done.
Better consistency, better portability, and just more modern.
Yeah.
That's enough right there. So given the choice of where to start from, if we're starting fresh, definitely going to start with something more modern.
Yes, exactly.
Got it. Cool. All right. Thank you, Chris.
No problem.